Hey, what's up, everyone? So, this video is about me owning my 2016 Mustang EcoBoost. I bought this car back in December of 2023, and I wanted to share my full experience so far. The highs, the lows, and everything in between. If you're thinking about getting an EcoBoost or even just curious about what it's like to live with one and drive one on a day-to-day basis, this is for you. So, I want to start with why I got the EcoBoost and, my first impressions when I first got it. So I originally was searching for a classic Mustang because I absolutely love the first generation styling. To this day, I still do. But honestly, I was still in university, so I didn't really have the investment or the capital to buy and maintain a classic car. Because you're when you're buying one like that, it's a lot of it's mostly like a project car, which I didn't really have time for nor the money for at the time. So I wanted something more modern and a little bit more affordable in terms of how much I would be able to drive it and how much it costs to actually drive it. So I actually went to a secondhand dealer to look at a 2015 V6 base model Mustang. But when I got into it, I didn't really like how it drove. I was hearing weird sounds, and the inside was very, very cheap. So I didn't want to be in that. And so instead, I went around the corner and I found another dealer that offered me a different car, which was the 2016 Premium EcoBoost that I have right now. And I fell in love with it immediately. I remember the day, it was like a very rainy day actually. And I saw this ruby red Mustang just in the parking lot, and I just fell in love with it immediately. I love the styling, the overall feel, and it's just so. After driving it for 2 years, it's so versatile. It's so nice to drive, especially in the summer and fall. It's really good. Um, it is a convertible, which I know some people hate on convertibles, but for me, I love it. Especially in the summertime and in the fall when the weather is just like perfect for just driving like that. The wind is really good. Um, so my driving experience so far, this is the fun part. Honestly, driving this car is a blast. It's a really fun car to drive every day. I used to get it. I use it to go to university, to work, and even the gym. The turbo makes it feel very peppy. It can really kick into gear when it really wants to, which is perfect for me because originally my first car was like a 2011 Honda CRV. So when you go from the CRV to a 2016 Mustang EcoBoost, it's like night and day. Um, Long drives are also a joy. I've taken this car multiple times to the beach and well, one time to Atlantic City for my birthday, which were both 1 hour to 2.5 hour drives, and it never broke down on me. I didn't really have any issues with driving. The highway feels great. The car just eats up the miles without feeling exhausting. It's very sporty. It's fast, but for me, it's honestly very comfortable. I didn't stop for those 2 hours that I drove to Atlantic City, so I wouldn't say it's a compromise on either end of it being sporty or comfortable. Um, what I love the most. So here's some things I really love about my Mustang. The styling. I get compliments everywhere I go. People notice at work, at university, or even when I'm just filling it up at the gas station. People at work, they'll always look at my car parked outside and they say, "Oh wow, that's a nice Mustang." They always ask me questions about it, like what did I do to it? How long have I owned it? Do I like it? And I still have my CRV, so sometimes when people notice that I come in my CRV sometimes, because I drive both, they ask me, "Oh no, you didn't sell the Mustang, right? Please tell me you didn't sell it," because they just like looking at it so much. Um, the second thing I like about it, the turbo. It's small, I won't lie, but it does give around 300 horsepower, which in my opinion is plenty for young drivers. I'm a young driver myself, so you know, for me it was really good. It is really good. It's still very fast. It's faster than 90% of the cars on the road. You know, if you're looking to beat some grandma in a Camry on the highway, you're gonna be her. So I feel like it's really good. Obviously, if there's a Ferrari on the road, which you're not really gonna see that many. obviously they're gonna be faster than you, but at that point you're racing a Lamborghini. It's a Mustang, you know. In terms of comfort, the premium trim has pretty much all the creature comforts you could possibly want. It has memory seats, so whenever you turn the car off, it'll go back so it's easier for you to get out. And then whenever you turn it on, it'll move into position where you last had it. So that's really nice. It makes it feel very luxurious. It has heated and ventilated seats, so that heated seat really comes in clutch, especially in the winter time and fall time. It just feels so good. It's so comfortable. It feels really good. And then the ventilated seats very good for the summer and spring times when it's just really hot. Um, the sound system I will say is very good as well. I like listening to a lot of music, so especially on these long drives or even just to school, and it's very good. Like especially compared to my CRV, it's very loud. The bass is really good, and this is all just obviously it's the premium trim, but that's it. It's like I didn't do anything to it, so it's really good. It has all the sliders to adjust tone, tenor, those things. Bass. Um, Honestly, the fun factor with this car, I'd say, is a 10 out of 10. It's a car that you enjoy driving every single day. The ride, the sound, the look. Obviously, I'm not saying it's very loud, but when you're inside the car, you can hear it. And even when you lower the windows down, you can hear the the turbo winding up and then expelling the exhaust. It's such a nice sound. It's a very nice. I have had some challenges and frustrations. Of course, it's not perfect. I live in New Jersey, so the insurance is criminal. It's insane, but that's just the reality of living in this state. Gas is another factor. The car itself, well, the car itself recommends 87, which is regular, I believe. But when you do some research online, 91 plus octane is recommended for to get the best performance. So it can get a little expensive, but honestly, for the performance you get, it's not as bad as I initially expected. Driving spiritedly will obviously eat through the gas faster, and the gas tank itself is a little bit small. I believe it's around 13 gallons, which is kind of small, but that alone would have stopped me from buying this car. I'd say if you were to fill it up from half a tank, it's probably around 30 bucks maybe. I don't let it go below half, maybe a little bit, but even then it'll be like 35. I'm assuming at most, if you were to go from empty to full, it'd be around maybe $70 if you do premium. I've had to do some minor repairs over the last 2 years. I have had issue with the control arm and the evap canister issues, but nothing that broke the bank or made the car unsafe to drive. It was I believe for the evap canister replacement and some other thing wrong with the evap system. It was like $300 parts and labor. And then for the control arm, it was like maybe 300 as well, 500. It was very cheap in terms of, repairs. And but in reality, that's just part of owning a car. Things are gonna break. That's how it goes. Even if it's an entry level car, things are gonna break. And this car is what, 2016? It's almost 10 years old. So I was kind of surprised if it wouldn't have any problems, if you know what I'm saying. Another issue I would say about this car is do not think about driving it in the snow, because it does struggle a lot in snowy conditions. But contrary to what you might think, it does not have much issue in any level of rain. And we've had some pretty bad rainstorms in my area recently, and it has maybe snowed 2 or 3 times a year. So in the end, take this critique with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, it is a rear-wheel drive car, so you're always gonna have issues with, slipping and stuff like that. So, a lot as much as it is the car, it's also user error. And I remember in the beginning when I first owned the car, I was spinning out a lot, but as I've gotten used to the car, I've gotten more used to it. But tire maintenance is also critical. I remember when I first bought it, I had a very hard time controlling the car, and I was like, this is weird. And then I finally checked the tire tread, which honestly I should have checked earlier, but I found it to be very low. So I did have to buy new tires for it, but that's part of maintenance. The tires, I believe, I got the cheapest ones because. They were about $800 for four new tires, which honestly is not that bad, and I haven't had much issue with slipping at all since, especially in the rain. Like these are really good in the rain so far. So I'd say it's only the snow really that gives you problems. Um, in terms of mods and personal touches, I've done a few non-performance mods to really make it my own. After like maybe 6 months of owning it, I decided to tint the windows, which I believe on the front windshield I did about 50%, and then everywhere else I did like maybe 15%. So it was really good, and I shelled out for some what do they call it? I think it's not carbon, it's something else, and ceramic tints. So that supposedly helps with the heat, which I did notice in the summertime that it did help with the heat. Um, I also added some vinyl stripes down the center, white vinyl stripes. Very honestly, it drastically improved the styling of it. Um, I also did my own. I bought some white permanent markers and lettered and whited out the lettering on my wheels, and it gave it a really nice look. And I added paddle shift extensions to the paddle shifters to really make it pop and really make the steering wheel look unique. Um, one issue I did have was with Apple CarPlay on this car. It did not come with Apple CarPlay. I had to buy an aftermarket USB module to install into the car. So in the glove compartment, there is a USB port, and I had to take that port out and put a new one in that could actually take the update for the Apple CarPlay. It was literally a USB. I had to go to the Ford website, download an update on the USB stick, and then go change out the module, put it in. It was really easy once I figured it out. It did take me a while to figure that out, but I got it. My car did not come with a spare tire kit, mostly because I believe they're supposed to do run flats, but those things are expensive. Those things are like $600 a tire, so I'd rather just get regular tires and bought a spare kit for like $100, I think. So obviously none of these mods are crazy. None of them are really performance based, but I wanted to put my own spin on the vehicle. And honestly, I don't really see the need to do performance mods on my car. I've heard stories of people having issues once they really, try to mod their vehicle, especially the EcoBoost, because it's just a four banger. It's only four cylinders. It already has a lot of pressure going on in there. So if you keep adding more, it's gonna mess with the reliability of the car itself. So I don't really mess with it in that terms. So my own personal thoughts on the EcoBoost platform. Some people online hate EcoBoost. They say you should have just gone to GT or V8. But honestly, I think it's a very solid entry vehicle into performance vehicles. It's fun, accessible, and still fast enough to feel exciting. So for someone like me who started with the CRV and then moving on to this, it feels like the right step. It felt like I I originally started driving at 17, and that's when I got my CRV, and I drove that for about 2 years until I bought my Mustang. So this progressive steps in power kind of made driving it a lot more fun. You can always compare like, oh, I remember my CRV, and now I'm driving this. So in the end of the day, there are always going to be critics saying that you should have bought new or you should have bought a V8. But honestly, you do you. Most of the time people will critique you for buying the EcoBoost while they're driving in a base model 2010 Camry. So you always got to take the critiques with a grain of salt. So my final thoughts. Would I buy this car again? Absolutely. I love the EcoBoost platform. The versatility and the everyday excitement it brings, it's just fantastic. If you're looking for a car that's fast, relatively affordable, and a ton of fun, especially as an introduction to performance vehicle, I recommend it. It's very nice. Thank you for watching. If you have an EcoBoost or thinking about getting one, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your experience. If you have a car, any car, we could talk about it. So as always, like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride.